No, so I appreciate, because like last time we had talked, I mean, you had given me, you were one of my first meetings when I started with CanMonkey, and
Yep.
I remember meeting with you, and obviously you were a FSU fan, we kind of bonded on that, but you told me something really profound in the very beginning, and I remember I take that to heart still. I just want to let you know I still remember, but you told me that someone took a chance on you when you started your entrepreneurial career, and you said, I'm going to give you an opportunity, and I just want to let you know that really meant a lot in the beginning, because, during the pandemic, when everything was shut down, being an entrepreneur, I'm contemplating, why am I even doing this right now? I'm taking trash cans out. Like, what the hell? And, and then
Great idea.
Yes, I'm glad I stayed with it. And, there's little stepping stones in my journey. And you definitely were one that, was that unspoken kind of like, just keep going. And when you, said that someone gave you an opportunity, before, and that's all you needed. You were kind of that words of encouragement. So I just want to say thank you. And we're still here, and we're only getting bigger and better. And, so I just want to let you know that before I forget that. I appreciate that.
I remember that because I think it was like October, November of 2020, and everybody had been on fire, and it had been scary start of the year. Things were going well. And I remember when you came on camera and you looked like a Regis office, or it was like you were borrowing somebody's office, right? Yes. And I remember grabbing my backpack and sitting in an office, and we weren't even paying anybody. We were borrowing a friend's office, a spare room until they hired somebody, and we'd been in there pitching our deal and stuff, and I thought, man, I've been there, and it's like, can I do this? And you're trying to put forward the professional attitude. But when you're very new, everything's hard, right? And so I like people that are jumping into it. It's scary, right? Being an entrepreneur is scary.
Very scary.
And we deal, and so one of the reasons that I wanted to take a chance on you guys is, first of all, I saw what you were talking about. We need, right? Yeah. My franchisees are also startup folks, right? They're moving from corporate life into entrepreneurial life, and so they're experiencing where they had staff and they had resources there, same place you were. And by the way, they needed that service because they don't have staff to do that. And they can't do everything. And so it looked like a perfect fit if you could pull it off, right? The question is, can you pull it off?
Absolutely.
And I think to a T you have. I think you've proven you can do it. I want to see you grow more. I know I have franchisees that need the service more. I wish you could be everywhere, and I think over time you can be. So
yes, I appreciate that. And you're right, entrepreneurship. There's a saying where it's jumping off the cliff and building the plane while you're falling. And and I agree to that statement to a T. And so you said that iTrip is franchisees that you bring on. So you said that they come from a different background. So are you helping with them and get that entrepreneurial mindset, or are you kind of just letting them kind of not sink or swim? Obviously you're giving them the right tools, but are they coming in with like a I can do this, and it's kind of hard for them, and you give them like the encouragement like you kind of gave to me, like, hey, you're gonna do this, you're gonna succeed, or is it more they come in and they just have this business background and they just take off the ground and start running?
We're very hands-on. So we have a full training department, even through the process of even adding a franchisee. We have a very, very rigorous process that we put them through. A lot of series of webinars and conversations. And are you sure you want to do this? And this is, yes, it's a lifestyle business, but it's a busy lifestyle. This isn't a passive investment. We don't try to talk people into it. We almost try to talk them out a little bit, because it's work, right? When you start a new business, it owns your life. And again, we have very successful people that are exiting corporate careers. We don't sell a franchise. If you don't have 10 years experience in business, we won't even sell you a franchise.
Wow.
So we want people that understand how to operate. And what that brings us is all this mind share and talent of successful folks that adds to our domain of knowledge in our business and knowledge of business that helps our whole team. We're very much into collaboration within iTrip. And I think as an industry, I wish we were doing more of that as an industry. I see all kinds of stuff, you read LinkedIn sometimes, and, there's nit people, other people. And I just feel like if we could work together, the pie keeps getting bigger because demand is there. Collaboration is key. It's key as an entrepreneur. to collaborate with other people because you can't do it yourself. You know, when you're a one-person show or a two-person show. So we really try hard to vet our franchisees for that intestinal fortitude to get through it. And you know, they ask me all the time, what are the key things that are going to make me successful? And first on my list is always tenacity, right? You have to be tenacious. You know, you can't take no for an answer. You can't take a setback as the end of the world. And you know, they're coming in with successes in business, but most of them have not been entrepreneurs. We get all flavors of folks from all kinds of backgrounds, some who have no background in this, some who have real estate or investment property experience. So it's a mix of folks, which again benefits us from a breadth of business knowledge. But it's all about being engaged with vendors, engaged with the tools, with your software, with your training, being teachable, right? One thing I've learned in this business since I've been in this business, in the iTrip business, is, you know, and we talk about being teachable, and it's something that put a highlight on me is, you know, I got to be teachable too, because I'm learning stuff from these franchisees and from the folks that I meet along the way who teach us stuff, right? We all learn stuff from each other, and having that mentality of lifelong learning, I think, is key to us being successful. And so particularly as an entrepreneur, because you don't know your next pivot yet, but someone may tell you what it is.
Absolutely. Especially when someone comes with a different background too, like you said. And that's where I think that you have that ability to get all these people in different markets across the country under the same umbrella of the iTrip brand. And then you get to say, hey, what are you guys seeing? What's working? What's not working? I know even for us internally, when people have shared, like when Bernie, you know, and Scottsdale shared, you know, hey, CanMonkey's working, other people had heard that. So it works where they share these best practices, which I think that collaboration is really good. And it shouldn't be us against them, especially in this industry where we all want to succeed. When you see, you know, different cities and different counties, you know, trying to ban us, it should be us getting together and being stronger as a unit.
And we, you know, as part of Inhabit, because we have the benefit of also having a collaboration group now of sister companies who used to be vendors to me, who are now sister companies. And so I have the benefit not only of franchisees and all of these entrepreneurs. We're almost at 100 franchise locations now, which is incredible. And in the last 3 to 5 years, it's grown crazy. We've actually added more franchises in the first half of this year than ever before. It's the best first half of a year that we've ever had. I anticipate our biggest growth year ever. As people are saying, I don't want to live in corporate life. I don't want to, you know, with all the turmoil the last 2 years, a lot of people, that great resignation is turning into some case great entrepreneurship. Yes. And so it's been exciting for us. We recently had a franchisee, and the deal's not done, but he put his franchise up for resale, and we had 8 people trying to buy it. Wow. So but it's going to close quickly and done. You know, there's an LOI in place, so knock on wood, everything will go fine. But it's incredible the amount of interest in the space, and I think again the COVID brought us there. It took us to that 95% market awareness. Wow. And as an industry, we're benefiting from that. And it's not a static size pie. Inventory, the amount of inventory has grown. You know, that puts pressure on us to make sure occupancies don't go down. You know, and economic things are pushing on the ADR, so rates are there's pressure on rates because certain classes of product, particularly people who are renting the lower dollar properties, they're feeling the effect of gas prices and everything else. And so as an industry, I think we can, you know, we certainly can feel some headwinds, but we've always been fairly recession resistant. Mm-hmm. And as an industry, I think we can share data to some degree. Obviously, we want to compete. But I think there's enough pie for all of us. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of inventory out there. There's a lot of demand out there. If we don't capture that stay, then you know, different types of lodging, RVs, someone else is going to capture it. You know, we have to be talking about why this is a great way to vacation, and a great way not just to vacation, but to work from home, or a great way to travel for medical reasons. If you're going for, you know, there's a lot of stay occasions within our industry. We're actually, we look at ourselves with all of we've got a lot of new urban growth, and so we don't think of ourselves as only vacations. And so as we think about this industry, there's just so many opportunities to engage travelers.
Mhm.
And that demand is there, the interest is there. We've proven ourselves through COVID.
Mhm.
It's time to seize that pie, in the way I look at it. And that only happens if we work together.
Absolutely.
You
We got to
know,
keep the.
I would say one more thing. One of the guys that I worked with in one of my M&A days when we were back in my Resort Quest days, when someone was looking to acquire us. Good idea. I'll turn mine off too.
Sorry.
Um, so we were talking about competition, and he goes, "Well, I like to think of it as co-opetition,
Oh,
right? We can." And so I can't take credit for it. Peter Giamalva said it to me. I don't know where he got it from, but when you think about our industry, we can cooperate, but we can also compete against each other. But I think at the end of the day, if we band together as a group, and that the great example you gave of advocacy, right? Government advocacy. It's one of the reasons that we contribute a significant amount of money to various rent responsibly and other entities. And Habit actually has a government affairs department. Scott Leggett heads that up, and he does a great job of making sure that we have a ninja crew of people to go in. When one of my franchisees calls me and says, "I've got a problem with something coming up, from a government affairs perspective," we launch a team at it because we want to make sure that we're educating. We don't do it in a negative way. We come in and say, "Here's how we want to be responsible part of your community." And as iTrip, my franchisees are owner operators. They're local to their market. So while we have a national footprint, we have local owner operators. They're entrepreneurs in that market. They live in that market. It's a requirement. And so we have a vested interest in making sure those communities stay stable.
1,000%. And go back to the collaboration. I have a story when we were expanding to Denver. We had someone reach out to us. They knew about CanMonkey, and they said, "Hey, we'd love your service out here in Denver." And I said, "Great. Well, how many properties do you have?" And they had about 12 to 15 at the time. I said, "Well, unfortunately, we can't get started in that area until we have about 40 to 50 properties." And he's like, "Well, I only have 12 or 15." I'm like, I get it. So let me reach out to other partners that we had that are maybe in the area, see if I can get some more properties from them and help combine with yours. I was like, "Do you know anyone in the area that does what you do that maybe I could reach out to?" And he goes, "You mean?" He goes, "You mean my competitors?" I said, "No, I think of them more as a collaborator." And he's like, "No, I don't know." And I'm like, "All right, well, let me know if you know any other people in there, and I'll let you know when we can get in the Denver market." A week and a half later, 2 weeks later, I got an email from him saying, "Hey, Alex, here's an introduction to another collaborator of mine in the area. He has 30 properties with my 15. That's 45. Can you get started?" I said, "Yes, we will." So
That's awesome.
it went from a concept where I don't want to talk to my competitor. I don't want to talk to that person. And then when I maybe said collaborator, because why is it a competitor? If you need something, he probably needs it too. And that's
That's
exactly what it was. And so I think if we looked at it more as collaborators where we can have masterminds, and learn from each other and better our systems, or maybe just like you said, you have local people in the area that know that live there, that know the area, which I think is really important when you are a short-term rental host and you have people coming to you. They're obviously choosing the short-term rental over the hotel, and why is that? So give them that experience, and if some of that experience is knowing the local area, I think that's a
right.
lot better than someone that's like, "Hey, I don't know, maybe Google." Someone has thought, "No, like give me the little hole in the wall, give me something else. Let me see what Colorado Springs is like, or what Franklin."
That live like a local. I think
Yes.
maybe talk about. I love that idea, and that's what we offer. I know when we sold our Nashville, we're based in Nashville, but we didn't have an operation here, and we sold the Nashville market to Kevin, and he's sitting in training, and we're talking, and it was incredible. He's like Mr. Nashville, and so when I want to go out to dinner, I check with Kevin on what's the latest greatest place to go to, because he knows, and most of our franchisees are in that same position. They say, "Oh yeah, you want to go here," and there's someplace you probably wouldn't find. You're not going to find it in your local directories. It's not in your hotel concierge book,
Yes.
right? And so
Absolutely.
that's what short-term rentals brings to travel that I don't think any other segment can.
I agree with you, and that's where that's what is really interesting about this industry, is that that's where it started. I mean, and that, you made a good point. You said I think it was 95% of the industry or the market knows about short-term rental now, which is crazy. But you've been in this way longer than the last 3 years. So when did you get into the industry? Because now everyone, it seems like a lot of people had just jumped in, kind of like what you're saying, this is your biggest year so far. A lot of people don't know anything else but success. Obviously, you guys are growing now, but where you guys were before, like you probably love this, but you already know what had happened before. So are you looking forward to, some areas are kind of, saturating or kind of getting like scary. And Warren Buffett says when some are fearful, be greedy, or greedy and fearful. Are you in a situation right now where you have all this knowledge behind you that you're excited for? Not that we're slowing down a little bit, but kind of take this opportunity to get more part of the share of the piece of the pie, or are you just kind of, is this new to you as well, even though you've been doing this for longer than 5+ years?
Yeah, I've been doing it a few years. In my first life, I was an Air Force navigator. I was Air Force Special Ops flying airplanes. Got out of the military in the mid '90s and joined this industry because that's a natural progression somehow, right? The reality is there are two industries in the Panhandle of Florida. One is the military, and the other is the resort business. My background's technology originally, and so I came in as a CTO for one of the largest privately held companies that was growing, and we took that company. The ownership had just hired a management team, and we took that company from 700 or 800 units to over 4,000 units, and then sold it to ResortQuest. We were the first post roll-up acquisition. So I've been kind of in growth mode my whole career. Though, as to your point, we've seen periods where there's downturns. There's 2-3 years of no snow in the mountains, and there's troubles, and ResortQuest went through some of that, and but the industry keeps growing. When I came in, there's no Smith Travel, there's no one source for all travel stats for our industry. I'm sure you were digging for the thing. We talked about that when we first got together. Trying to find out where is the demand, where's the inventory, where do I, what are the numbers for this? And AirDNA is out there, and Skift has stuff, and there's lots of other independent companies that publish data, but there's no one source to go to. And so when I look at it, back then it was something like 4% of people had ever stayed in a short-term rental or had considered it. Wow. When I was at Choice and we were launching that product at Choice, when we were pitching to, we were franchising for what we were going after existing managers to convert them into a franchise. And, it was like 37, 40, 55%, in that range over those years. And then, over the last 3 to 4 years, of course, it's just ramped. And I think COVID moved us a decade ahead of market awareness. So it's incumbent upon us to take advantage of that and seize it and deliver, right? We got what we wanted. Can we deliver, right? And that means you got to have good quality. You have to have great communications with your owners, with your guests. You got to provide quality experience for both sides. There's two customers of the property manager, right? There's the guest and the owner. Yes. Both have to have a great experience, or the product fails.
Right.
And so as an industry, we have to step into that. And we wanted to grow up. We've grown up. Now we have to grow up ourselves and make sure that as an industry, we're working together to make sure that the traveler stays interested.
Absolutely. And that's a good point. You're right. You do have the homeowner and you have the guest. And I feel that sometimes people forget that they have, two clients, and, it's both sides. And I think that's something very important, is that I feel the same way in our business. We have our clients are the iTrip, the owners that give us the properties to service, but we also have the clients on the can runner side. And that's something for us too. We have two clients as well. I gotta make sure that can runners are doing a great job, that they're happy, that they love the persistence and consistence of doing their routes, and they know what they're doing. And when they do it well, they get rewarded, because when they do a good job, then our clients are happy, other clients are happy, and it goes both ways. Right. So it's good that you see it kind of like that as well, because I feel like some people only see it one way, like, oh, I'm getting paid, or I'm getting the money, so that's who I have to take care of. And then sometimes you got to kind of see the whole pie.
The ultimate end is owners. These are assets owned by an individual owner or an investor owner. Again, there's a lot of different flavors of those folks, so you have to learn how to communicate with them in the manner that they need to be communicated with, and to give them the assurance that you're managing their asset. When I talk to new franchisees, I tell them, you're an asset manager. Your customer is your customer, your primary customer. Without that entity, that person or that entity, you don't have a business, right? They control that product. So you have to make sure that they know you're caring for their product, because if you're a second homeowner and you scrapped everything to get that unit, and you want to put it up to get a little residual income, you're going to be nervous about it. You're going to want to be communicated with. You're going to want to make sure that you've put your hard-earned asset in the hands of somebody that cares.
Right.
And that's why, again, I love our model is these are local owner operators. They're owners of the business. They're not a manager. They're not disconnected. We're not telling those folks, we're not micromanaging their day-to-day life. Those franchisees make their own business. They build their own business around our brand, obviously. So we have a brand, we drive their marketing, and we drive a lot of the technology. But again, in a collaborative way, we work with them and they push to us and say, we need this in order to be better. And we sit down and figure out how to do that. But at the end of the day, they own that market and they're the ones communicating with the homeowners. That's their role.
Right.
They also have the guests, right? So get the owners, make sure the owners are stable, make sure your product is great, make sure the owner understands what a great rental needs to be. So upgrade where needed, and then make sure the guests are aware of the product and how that their stay is right. You're appreciating them when they arrive, and you're communicating with them mid-stay if they want mid-stay. You're answering questions and problems, and you're communicating afterwards, right? There's a whole life cycle there, and it always comes around communication. And when communications aren't there, the rest of the product starts to get unstable.
Absolutely, and I think that having them local and having them own that, in a sense of makes them care a little bit more. And I feel that's where other companies, not saying anything bad about them, but when you hire people to just do a job, it's not made the same sense as if you have an ownership in it. And I feel that's where iTrip is really prides their work, because their name is on that. It's not someone that's going to get fired if the recession turns or whatever. It's someone that is actually the face of that brand out there, and I think that's what keeps you guys different. And is that what the thought process was when you guys do the franchisees? That when you guys were trying to scale, you thought that would be a better idea, or how did that come about? 'Cause I don't know if there's other franchises that are as big as iTrip in the short-term rental industry. Are you guys the only one that?
We're not the only one. There's two others. There's a couple others out there now. We were I think the first ones out there. We actually started as a license model, and I wasn't the founder. I came in as a partner 4 years ago. In fact, I remember Steve Presley was the creator of the business, and I remember when they created it and talking with one of my partners, going, "There's no way that's going to work, right? You can't do that. That's not going to work. How's that going to happen?"
Right.
And so I told Steve Presley that story when we were interviewing, and he's like, "Well, what do you think now?" and I think it was a brilliant idea, because it was a way to kind of change the way the whole process worked, because it's always been short-term rentals has always been hyper local. It's about the local experience, the local relationships. One of the failures of Resort Quest was trying to nationalize and centralize copier contracts, and what they forgot is that copier contract that I had when I was down at Abbott Resorts in the early days. That guy was also a unit owner of multiple units, and so when I stopped doing business with him, he stopped doing business with us. And so it's everything's local, but you still need national, international reach. You need quality technology. And it's hard for that local. That local guy can't write his own stuff.
Yeah.
And it's hard to cobble together stuff from 15 companies and integrate it and keep it all working. And so to have a national platform, a national marketing, a reach that we can compete with anybody on. In fact, we outperform, according to several of our large partners, both in reviews and bookings per unit and revenue per unit, revenue per booking. And so we know we can compete with anybody in the marketplace, but we have local people that are there on the ground, and they know the guy that fixes air conditioners, and they're going to put their name on this business, say go fix this, make this happen, and they're there. And it just builds it right sizes the relationships across the whole ecosystem. For us, we think it fits us. And you're right, we look at the industry, and it goes back to my military days, right? We would build a plan, we train we used to have everything, train like you fight. So we'd have a plan. We'd go train that. We'd go fly those missions. We'd practice those. I still have the charts that we used to fly, the repetitive training missions. And I remember sitting in a bunker in Saudi Arabia one time, getting ready to go to a real one. And I just kind of zoned out for a second as this general was doing a briefing. because there was always a series of things. You had to go through a lot of briefings before you got to go fly. And the copier had to work or the mission was over because you needed a lot of paper. But I remember sitting there going, my God, I've done this 1,000 times. And it just felt normal. And it's about training and the whole, that whole, again, it's collaborating, working with teams, figuring out how you're going to solve the mission. You have a plan, you spend weeks planning it, you get in the airplane and you do it at 350 miles an hour and something comes up, all that experience allows you to adapt. You got to take out the noise, get rid of all the stuff that distracts you, and you have to be mission minded, right? That it applies in life, it applies in this business equally so. So you asked me early on, do we just launch them? And we don't. We have a launch team. From the day you sign a franchise agreement, you're going to hear from Jeff or either that day or the next day. And that team is going to assign you a coach. You got weekly coaching, you have accountability. There's checklists of things. There's COVID forced us, in fact, to totally revamp that because it's an on-site experience. We show up and we say, here's how you start your business. Here's how you build a relationship with cleaners. Here's how you go pitch to a realtor who's a great source for inventory. We had to do all that online during COVID. And what we've done coming out of that now is we took the original training program on site and the COVID training program, and we've mashed those together, so we've doubled it up. So now it's a continuous learning, and it's out there in our iTrip University for them to learn on. And we are there always adding modules to that, because if you're not learning and training and challenging yourself, we do regular webinars, we roll out new technology. We just did a fireside chat with a group yesterday. The regular training wasn't exactly meeting our needs. They adapted to what we needed, and we sat down, and it's just bringing that level of knowledge of that product up because we're training. So when we get into using the product, we're going to know how to adapt it and use it better. And so again, we try to, we use that same mentality of how do we focus our energy to a mission goal. And the mission goal is, franchisees to be financially successful, right? We want them to thrive. They can only do that if their homeowners are happy and their guests are happy. And so you start seeing the cascade of goals that you got to have in order to succeed. And
if they win,
I get jazzed up about it. I love doing it every day.
I love it. You're right. If they win, you win. And it goes back to trust the process. And here you guys are, doing all, figuring out everything that works. Trying figuring out the processes, the systems, and you guys don't recreate the wheel once it works. So if you get something in a whole, here's 10 steps to success. You just got to do one after the other. And if you get to 10, you're going to succeed. And
right.
My background was in a title and escrow and in consulting. And I would tell people, this is what the successful real estate agents do. Here, just copy, and people would stop at step 6. They would stop at step 7. But as long as you have the right leadership and right team around you to show you that it's attainable and show you that if you just follow the steps in place that weren't just made up, they're there for reasons, that you will succeed too. You just got to trust the process and do it. It seems like that's what exactly you guys have done, because I know you guys are not in small markets, but Colorado Springs, Pagosa, you guys are in markets that, that some people might not even go to, but you guys are there and you guys are doing great. So obviously you guys trust your process, you guys trust your leadership, you trust your training, and you're putting it to work and knowing when you're in there in action and 350 miles an hour in the sky, you're going to succeed because you've already done it before. And, just trust the process.
But we take that feedback. We also then get feedback, right? Mm. And so the other part of that training process in the military was you land, you debrief. Mm. Everybody on the airplane, it didn't matter what rank you were, you had a say in what you're doing in the training process because you're learning, right? Mm. And so we also want that 360-degree feedback from franchisees, because the process gets tweaked all the time. And that to me, what's our secret sauce, the secret sauce of iTrip and our growth, and we've had double-digit growth every year of the company. We've never had less than, significant double-digit growth. And that's always been, I think, because with the franchisees, they bring that business mind. Remember, they're in this for the long haul, right? They're in this, they've invested their hard-earned money, their family's future. They're looking to set a legacy for their family, right? And so I take that pretty deeply, right? If someone's putting their life savings in my hands to help them grow their business for their financial future, this team gets up every day and gives 125% of that. And when you think about everybody's all in, right? the franchisees are all in. They put their trust in us. We're all in to bring that about. Not succeeding is not an option. It's just not a choice.
And you put your money where your mouth is as well, because you are in the business yourself. You have other family members that have. So it's not just you're just not just in it. You're actually in it, and that's the thing. Another thing, if I was going to be a franchise owner of a company, and I'm looking at the CEO, and I'm like, oh, you're doing this too. Like, it gives you even more confidence that yes.
Yeah, we're operators too. We drink the same Kool-Aid we sell, and we deal with the same issues when there's guest issues. And my Thanksgiving evening typically gets disrupted by phone calls, and my holidays are the same as theirs, and there are no weekends in the summer. All those good things that we all experience, but we're in the business, and so we feel that same pain when it's pain. We are the first to use any tool we roll out. We roll it out on ourselves, and oftentimes put it back in the can and say never mind. So we try things because we also have always had an innovation mindset, and so one of the things, we always set aside money in the budget to try new ideas. So those ideas come from our franchisees and from our team, and what we try to do is try to innovate and launch new things that no one else has done that increase operational efficiency, increase guest experience. It's all surrounding how do we make sure that we give an incremental better product. Some of them work, some of them don't. But if you're not failing, you're not trying, right? You've got to try things to see if it's going to work in a very careful way, right? We don't just throw money at stuff. We try to make sure that we think through the process. We pick and choose our pain, but you got to lean forward sometimes. And I think a lot of companies lose that entrepreneurial mindset. And even though we're going to hit 100 franchisees, we've got more than 4,000 properties out there. We're not the biggest. We have some good scale. We're in 130 different destination markets from a consumer's perspective. So we're everywhere in the U.S. and we're in some really small markets that a lot of people aren't in. We've embraced urban very successfully, but we're always learning and we're always trying to adapt and add new tools and be innovative to make sure that our franchisees can be successful. Because at the end of the day, that's our one mantra. That's our goal number one. It's it's in our DNA to do is how do we add franchisee value, right? How do we give them what they need to be successful?
I love that. And on to follow that, if someone's interested in getting into the short-term rental industry and to be an owner and to be a franchise owner, how would they find iTrip? I mean, how do people stumble across you, or is it they see it in a local area and they're like, oh, I want that, so they reach out and you're like, oh, that city's already taken. So like, how does someone go about being part of? I know you said earlier that you guys go through a process, but how do they find you? How does someone say I want to be part of that and then go through that process?
So there's a mix. So certainly our franchisees refer other people, and we've sold franchises from other franchises. We've had people that have stayed with some of our franchisees who then engage those owners and find out about it and then go buy a market. A lot of our franchisees come to us through franchise brokers. So we have a great relationship with a bunch of franchise brokers. Again, this is a relationship business for us all through the value chain. We work with them to educate them on our product. We work with them. We have to be responsive to them, right? They have their choice of businesses they could go pitch. For them to pitch us is an honor to us, right? That they've chosen us. So we try to honor that back by being highly responsive to them. But they bring us people who are shopping in the industry thinking, they're successful business folks thinking, I want to do something different. A lot of folks look at franchising as an option or a business broker, and who will point them to a franchise broker. And they bring them in, and again, we walk them through a process, and it's very, there's a very defined way that we educate them on the product. We're regulated by the Federal Trade Commission, so there's certain things we must do, and we want to make sure that we always check that off and we stay, keep everything in the right order of stuff. So, but they bring those in, we bring them through the process. We compensate them obviously for that effort, and we compensate our franchisees if they bring somebody to us. So we incentivize that obviously with cash as well.
That's awesome. And they couldn't do the same market. So if someone came into, say, Scottsdale market and it was already, owned, is there market, if the market's big enough, do you guys split, or is it, one first come, first serve? And is that you kind of observe and you conquer that? Is that how it works?
Yeah, we define a polygon of geography that is either what we call a primary market, and then we have boutique markets, and really it's basically the number of units that we think are viable, first of all legal, and then viable. And we look at, so we look at what, when viability includes, first legal, right, always legal, but also, are the restrictions with cams, are, where is the opportunity? And if the opportunity, is what hits our criteria for primary, then it's a primary market. And again, a little bit lesser is boutique. The idea is that in a super large market, and so example, the Phoenix area, we actually have 3 franchisees there that have a little bug flying around in here, one of those fruit fly things. In that market, we have 3 franchisees. One of those franchisees owns 2 territories there. So we sell a dedicated territory, and that franchisee has rights to all inventory in that territory.
Got it.
And they're protected territories, and our role is to make sure that nobody's crossing any lines, and if they are, that there's an agreement between the franchisees. And so our first responsibility is to each franchisee and the agreement we have with them, and then second is to try to bring collaboration, right? So we really look at each area, and then it depends on density of inventory. Is how it comes in, by and large.
That's awesome. And so it's great for also when the industry is getting bigger, and if someone has a city that they take the the risk in helping grow that market, that when that market grows too, because now we're at 98%, the market knows about us, that they have the opportunity to grow their market as well with iTrip and take on another market in that area. So for example, would someone be able to own a Scottsdale franchise in a Sedona, or they live in Sedona if that's 2 hours away? Is that a possibility? I know it's kind of.
We want people to be within 1 hour of the market at a maximum. We really prefer you in the market. We have franchisees that buy other markets. We have one that owns 4 territories.
Oh.
But to do that, you have to hire a management. You have to have people, right? You have to have an operations plan. Again, we're very plan oriented, and so there has to be an operations plan. How are you going to do that? I want to make sure that every territory is successful. So you can't buy another one if this one isn't successful, and we don't want to dilute one for the other because each one of them needs to grow. Our brand is to have inventory, and what the product I sell, right, is territories, right? That's what iTrip sells. And we want to make sure that each territory remains viable. And if you only have, 5 units and you never grow beyond that, it's hard for a shopper to get a sense that they've shopped enough inventory to feel like they've seen everything they want to see. And so the number of bookings you're going to get are going to be highly diminished, right? There's an economy of scale for a shopper that sees X number of properties and they want to book. So it's important to us to make sure you're growing your inventory in your market. So we encourage that. We set goals for the franchisees for that as well.
I love that.
There's a lot of markets in the U.S. We're not in any way. We are, we still know there's more than 400 territories we could sell in the U.S. today alone.
400 more.
There's another 400 that we've done a lot of research into the industry, and we've mapped probably every unit in the U.S. So we kind of have a pretty good fix about where you could be successful, right? And again, for us, we sell territories we know can be successful.
No, and like I said earlier, they succeed, you succeed. So that's good that you guys do your due diligence ahead of time, and you're really taking away a lot of time, or you're saving them a lot of time and energy and effort of doing all this beforehand, because you're already going to know, oh, you want that market? We already know that market's great. Let's go. And it kind of just speeds up the process, and it makes it a good collaboration on both ends. It's good, like, marriage you guys are creating, and really just now empowering them to be the owners that they wanted to be. It sounds like, you couldn't lose in it, but it sounds like also you guys have done it enough times where anything that could go wrong, you figured out not to do that again, and keep it going in the right direction. So that's awesome. And it's been all the people that we've worked with at iTrip have all been the same mindset, and that's what's been really nice, that they run it like a business, and that's what it is. It is a business at the end of the day. And sometimes you get some people who think this short-term rental industry is just fun and easy, and you can see that they're the ones that kind of hurt the industry. So having owners at iTrip and help keep the standards up for everyone, and help us be, a good name in this industry, not have, bad things happen in, different communities is great. And I love that you guys are helping the industry become better and give us a good brand and give a good name to this industry. So, I mean, and one last thing I want to finish off of before, take any more of your time today is, Florida State. What do you think about Florida State, the Seminoles, anything going well with them? I mean, my uncle, I don't really hear much about them, these days. So I usually think that's something that's not going good. So he always shares good news. So
they've had some headwinds, right? So, I think they're a national power brand, right? And I think they'll find their legs again and they'll get back in. I think they lost their way. I think part of it is, it's tough. Bobby Bowden had been around for a long time. When I went there, they were trying to become a power brand. They were, they had to go everywhere else to get, to play. They were, when they played Pitt and they played Penn State, some of the big, those games didn't come to Florida State. And we did a lot of losing when I was there. And Bobby had been there, a short time, but he started seeing that success again. It was right after I graduated, so I didn't get to go to all those games. But I think there's ebbs and flows in anything, and I think that where he thought he had a good transition for a leadership team, it turned out not to be the case. And I think they suffered from it, right? I think it starts at the top, and I think the teams suffered because too much thrash at the top, right? And so I think they'll turn around. I think they're in a good place now.
Yeah.
I see good things on the horizon. We'll knock on wood. We'll get to do the tomahawk chop some more, but
yeah.
I think the same's in our industry. We've got companies that transition from one ownership to another. Oftentimes that transition doesn't go well, and it's incumbent upon the leader of that business to have a succession plan. I mean, part of this business has to be, what if something happens to this person or that person, and that resiliency in the business is important because it damages. You said it, right? It damages in the industry. So my job is to protect the iTrip brand, but also to some degree, I feel responsible for doing my part to protect the industry and the view of traveling. I think it's important for all of us to think that way because a little bit of harm can do a lot of harm.
Right.
And we see that in football games as well, right? I mean, football team. A little bit about can spin out of control.
I love that your brain, how your brain works and how you are able to segue into, flying pilots and then go into the rental industry. You're able to take the Florida State and bring back, and that's, you learn from everything, whether it's, and that's where I think that's where your brain is. You're learning from everything, even if it's not in your industry, you're taking what good or bad could happen and applying it to yours. And that's where I think my brain works at too. I look at everyone and I learn from everyone, whether they succeed or fail. How they failed, I'm not going to do that. And how they succeed, I'd love to copy that. And it seems like that's how you've been, little from what I picked up, that's kind of how your brain works too. And I like that you're able to take from everything and apply it to yourself.
I think you have to have a goal, right? When you started CanMonkey, you said, I want to do X. And then you got to think backwards from that goal. And then you get your plan, but then you get a curvy path to actually, the reality is it's curvy and the path wasn't obvious as what you thought it was going to be. And that adaptability and that learning is what kind of helps contribute to that. You kind of move left and right a little bit, but you're always making progress towards a goal. And I think you have to think a little differently in order to be successful as an entrepreneur. You've got to be able to look and see things other people don't, right? Because if you do the same things and you think the same things, you're going to get the same thing back. And I think what very successful entrepreneurs do is first learn from their mistakes, because we all make them, right? We all do things we shouldn't have done. We say things we shouldn't say. It's being humble enough to admit it and move on. And then it's about learning from that and adapting. And what I've tried to do over the years is to get over my own self and look outside and hear from other people. And for me at iTrip, it's not me. I have a team and the franchisees that they do all the really hard work. My job is to cheerlead and bring people together and look for new opportunities and throw things at the wall for them and tell them, they tell me no and not get my back up. Again, it's about all of us working together. It's not about one person, and you can't make any of this about just you or one person. It has to be a team effort. There's just too many moving parts, and you just got to see those gray areas out there that are fuzzy and try to see how they relate and bring those in together. And I think when you start looking at outside of what everybody else always does, there's a lot there that we can contribute back to our own processes. And I just think we can grow our businesses if we have a bigger thought about how we do things. The process is the same whether I'm flying a plane or I'm running a business or I'm trying to have a great football team, right? We're all trying to get to a goal, and we have to be process minded and deliberate in how we do it.
Absolutely, and I feel like you're the epitome of that. You are definitely putting other people before you, and you're thinking about this industry, and that you are helping us go in the right direction. And I appreciate that.
So, well, as always, if there's anything I can do to help you guys, again, I love great new startups. I expect at some point, I don't know that I'll ever do another one on my own, but I always like to invest in them or to invest my time in them. And I've had other folks that have called me up and say, "What do you think?" And I'm like, "Yeah, go for it," or run.
No, absolutely. And that's where I'm glad you didn't tell me to run. I'm glad that you gave me the advice that you gave me in the beginning, and that you gave me the opportunity to further, our term out there. I mean, with us, no one knows about CanMonkey. Everyone has a system or solution when it comes to their trash, and at best, maybe 50%, you have the guests take it out, maybe the cleaning company brings it back, but at best 50%. So everyone has a system or solution. So when you gave us that encouragement in the beginning to speak to your team, I really appreciate that. And that was really a catalyst for us to keep going. And once again, I don't think a lot of people know what you've done for this industry, behind the scenes, but I do appreciate you helping bring the standard up for everyone here, and definitely being a good apple for us. Because like you said, those bad apples, they're out there, and a couple of those could bring out all the other good apples. And so it's good to, raise the bar, raise the tide up. And I think this right now, what we're going through is going to help, eliminate some of those bad apples. And I hope it does, because I think that the good apples should keep succeeding. The people who are investing in life savings and owning these, franchisees and helping out each one of these little towns or big towns or big whatever it is, it's all helping the grand scheme of the industry. Right. So I do appreciate everything you've done, and I will definitely reach out to you if you ever need any help or any investors or board of directors, because I feel like your knowledge and everything you have done for this industry would be is great for anyone. And the fact that I get to spend an hour with you and speaking is I don't take it for granted. So I do appreciate it, and I know you're super busy, and I just appreciate everything you've done for, like I said, CanMonkey, the industry, and I really do appreciate it, Steve. So I appreciate your time. And if there's anything I can do for you as well, please let me know. But I probably not as much as you can do for me. So I appreciate it.
No, absolutely not. I mean, I look, we all need encouragement. We all need people to check us. We all need new ideas coming in. And so you provided a great new idea. I don't know why anybody hadn't done it before. And so I think we all have to figure out what's our vision. We got to do our thing, right? You pick out what you're doing. I worry very little about the competition. We don't talk about other people and other competition. We talk about what we want to do. We go do what we think is right. We try to be excellent at what we say our values are, and the rest of it works out. And we just try not to worry about it. And if you're doing that in your segment, and other people are doing that, whether it's insurance or marketing or all the other components that make up this great industry, if we all just pick our vision and run and do what we do best, and don't worry about the rest of the stuff, right? We don't get outside of our lane. We just need to go be excellent at what we're doing. And I talk about being excellent every year. Excellence comes by repetition. It comes from consistently doing the right thing over and over again. And it becomes a habit. Yes. And excellence has to be a habit. And if we all try to be excellent, the rest of this is going to work out for us. It's just where the noise is going to go away. You're solving a problem. I think that one of the biggest problems, one of the, that and folks like NoiseAware, who's also a partner of ours, so I'll give them a plug. Yes. Industry advocacy and towns, they have real needs for other homeowners who don't want noise and don't want trash cans to sit by the side of the road for a week. Those things are a problem for us that causes, friction in our industry, and you're taking that friction away. You saw a need, and you attacked it. And again, I can't believe somebody hadn't tried to solve it sooner. So where was our brain, right? So.
And that's where I agree with you. people, I think we were the first trash to curb service provider in the country. When we did our licensing and copyrights, they actually sent us the letters and they had to create the trash to curb category for us. So we were the first, and I understand why, because it's a lot of little idiosyncrasies.
It's a lot of work.
It's a lot of work, but just like your business, I mean, I don't know how you do what you do, and you trial and error, you fail. I failed a lot, but I kept going forward.